On this episode of ESL Uncensored, Growing Nationalism, Part 2. Hi everyone, welcome to Part 2 of Growing Nationalism in China. You may want to watch my Part 1 video first if you haven't already. I talked about how the Chinese sheeple are easily misled, so in this part I'm going to be talking about the Taiwan issue and the rewards and benefits of racial homogeny. Funny how the word homogeny sounds different than what it really means. And it sounds different than what it actually means only because I've never heard that word used to describe any other country in the world that wasn't Asian. I also believe that the Chinese sheeple would never die for such causes, just like I explained in part 1 in my video, especially for a homogeneous cause. Considering how homogeneous China is, I guess a lot of tainted milk products from China could theoretically be labeled as homogenized milk. The way that racially proud Chinese seem to see their homogeny seems to be like this. Oh man, it feels so good to be in my racially homogeneous country. Oh, the homogeneous aroma that penetrates our homeland. Oh, I can feel and smell the homogeneous aura around me and every other homogeneous person around. Look at that sexy girl. Wow, she's so homogeneous. Hey, if I married any of the homogeneous girls I dated, I could have children with them, meaning that my kids would be 50% homogeneous, which means they would get a 50% chance at life, right? Yes, the best thing about the Chinese girls was the homogeneous energy they had. They even smell homogeneous too. Yes, that's right, every homogeneous girl I dated has the sweet, homogeneous aroma coming off their sweat glands. Again, the word homogeny, the fact that I only hear it being used to describe Asian societies, it sounds different than what it actually means. Does homogeny really lead to happiness? And would racial homogeny actually solve all the social problems that exist? I would say no. Look at North Korea, a country that is 100% homogeneous. Yeah, their racial homogeny seems to have solved all their problems. Wow, this country is so homogeneous. The Chinese treat it like it's some sort of reward. The North Korean defectors who defected out of North Korea and jumped the wall of some foreign consulate in China for asylum, they don't seem to have benefited from their sweet homogeny at all, or the fact that Beijing and other cities in China have so much air pollution. But hey, homogeny seems to have solved all that, right? What about the migrant workers? They don't get any health care, no education for their kids. They are the most heavily taxed people in China. Even their kids can't advance in life because their parents were migrant workers. But an evil foreigner like me will never be able to take away their homogeny. It's better to be homogeneous and live in poverty than it is not to be homogeneous and be rich. What about people whose land is taken away from them, demolished, and no compensation is given to the evicted people? Then when they go to Beijing to petition authorities, they are rounded up and they are put into black jails. Oh, but their racial homogeny gives them the strength to endure all that, right? Because nothing is worse than an evil foreigner teaching English in China, dating homogeneous girls. I guess homogeny is the answer to all of life's problems. Hatred towards people of different color is only an outlet for any racist of any color to vent their negative energy on. If all immigrants from the West were banned from China, that will not make the Chinese sheeple happy, because even with no immigrants, Chinese sheeple still discriminate against other Chinese of different classes, different cities, and different provinces. China has many ethnic minorities within the country. We Western immigrants are the smallest minority of people China has, but even with all of us gone, the Han people still discriminate against Tibetans, Mongolians, and the Uyghurs. And they say that those people are all Chinese, but they sure don't treat them like they are. What about the Taiwan issue? Certainly they would die for such a cause. O ye of little faith. In one of my older videos, I explained before that even though war isn't impossible, it's very unlikely to happen. China would pay dearly for it if it did. and you can watch my video about that here. But the point I want to argue is that the Chinese sheeple in their sex dolls are perfectly fine without Taiwan. I have met quite a few Chinese who honestly could not care less if Taiwan is a country or not. The majority of Chinese sheeple do care, but more than 270 million of them don't. One person, I will refer to him as Christian. Growing up in China, but with a very open mind, I asked him how he felt about the Taiwan issue. He told me that it's fine with him if Taiwan is a country. My girlfriend Rainbow, who I took through the haunted house, she's a person who did care about that issue, but when talking to her about it, we may not agree on everything, but the way she talks, I can easily see that she would never sacrifice her own life over that issue. If Taiwan did get UN and international recognition in general, within a few weeks she would likely shrug her shoulders and she would move on with her life. And I talked to a small number of Chinese sheeple who I could tell are like that. If Taiwan was recognized in the international community, regardless of their official title, most Chinese sheeple, in the long run, they would get over it and they would move on with their lives, since the Taiwan issue does not impact their personal lives. Nearly 270 million Chinese already know this. This is only assuming that Taiwan has the right type of military weapons advanced enough that China cannot take over Taiwan without suffering an economic crash themselves that would take years for China to recover from. Take any average person in China who already has a son or a daughter. If God himself were to come down from heaven and tell the father, "I will destroy all Taiwan independence forces for you at a price, and the price is that you must decapitate your child. If you kill your child, I will hand Taiwan over to Beijing for you, but only at the cost of your child's life." In that situation, how many Chinese fathers who love their children would truly sacrifice their child's life over such a cause? Thinking about it from a perspective like this, you can already conclude that the Taiwan issue really is not that important to the Chinese sheeple. Even their sex dolls mean more to them than that. In the event where Taiwan gets the international recognition they deserve, many Chinese sheeple would protest the streets for a few weeks or so, and their bitterness would be there. But the protests would be over in less than 2 months, and within 2 years their bitterness would completely dissolve. Especially if the state-run media and propaganda quietly dropped the issue. One other friend that I had during my last year in China, I will refer to him as Jake. He told me that even as a Chinese-born citizen, he is against the Communist Party itself, and he understands perfectly why Taiwan's people reject Beijing. If there is any Chinese person watching this, here's what I have to say to you. Most of you seem to feel very strongly that Taiwan is not a country, but not a single one of you would ever sacrifice your own life or the life of your sex doll to see Taiwan occupied under Beijing's rule. And at the same time, not one of you would ever compromise your own life or sacrifice your own life to see every single foreigner kicked out. So, what do you all think about the rewards and benefits of a racially homogeneous country, as well as the issues relating to Taiwan? Leave your comments below. See you next time. 打呀打呀打呀打呀